Hello students, welcome back to Catholic Social Teaching. Today we're going to talk about the common good. Human beings are social by nature. In other words, we're not fundamentally individuals, but made for other people. There's two reasons that Jacques Maritain, the Thomist philosopher of the 20th century, would give for that. One, because of our strength, because of the gifts that we have as human beings. We can hold the whole universe potentially within ourselves, within our minds. And this inner universe we can only share with other persons, not with stools, not with desks, not with rocks, not even with our dogs, with other persons. That sharing, which is so necessary to the human person to be intended to be fully alive, can only be done in a society of persons. Therefore, we need one another. Also, though, our weakness. When we're born, we are very weak and much less able to care for ourselves than many other animals, and that weakness lasts for a lot of years. We need other people just to stay alive, even once we're older. I have people who make my house for me, made my house for me, people who made my car, people who made the food that I eat, people who made this computer that I'm using. All of these things I depend on other people for. If I were on a well-furnished desert island, could I possibly survive? Well, yeah, if I were old enough and strong enough and able to figure things out well enough, yeah, probably, like Robinson Crusoe. But I could not live well or easily in that circumstance. Because of both our strength and our weakness, we are in need of other persons. Also, in Genesis chapter 2, we see that human beings need one another. Adam was made first in the second creation story, and he was alone. God tried to make a helper fit for him, brought him all the animals. None of them were enough. Why? None of them were persons. None of them were able to share his inner life with him. God cast Adam into a deep sleep, took out the rib, made Eve. Adam woke up and said, "At last, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh," another person, another human, one that I can relate to as a person. That, within the primordial relationship of marriage in Genesis, extends also through all human relationships. We are made in some real way for one another. We're made as persons to live within community, as we see from those first pages of Genesis. Quick note on the words common and good. Common means held between two or more persons. An individual good, on the other hand, would be something like my toothbrush or my shoes or this little yellow duck that you can't have because this is my individual good, my duck. Common goods, on the other hand, are things that are shared in common between persons. So within a family, the society of the family, you would have a house that's shared in common by persons. In the society of the United States, we have culture, we have education, we have peace, we have our Constitution. All of these things are common goods that we share as a society. I will talk about some of those things in the future here. Good is just something that is desirable, something that's needed within a situation, something that benefits those persons in a particular society, or if you're talking about an individual good, that individual. The common good, then, is those desirable things that a society holds in common. Now, this does not mean the sum of all particular goods, as if the common good of our nation were the collection of all the dogs, all the tractors, all the plastic ducks, okay? The common good is the sum, the collection of all of those things that we hold in common, all of the common goods, not of the individual goods. Peace is an example of a common good, and a common good in the strictest sense. Why? Peace is something that we simply can't have unless we share it. I may choose not to harm someone else, but we don't have peace unless they choose also not to harm me. Friendship also in the same way as a common good in the strictest sense. It can't exist if it's not held in common. I can be kind to another person, like them, whatever. If they don't reciprocate that kindness, that liking, then we can't be friends. Friendship is something that exists between us or does not exist at all. That's a common good in the strictest sense. Although some common goods, and things rightly called that, I think, are not quite that strictly held in common. Here are some examples of common goods. I talked about peace. Education is another. We are educated when we are brought into the tradition of learning that we have as human beings and as a culture. We would, in fact, never figure all of the things that we are taught out by ourselves in our whole lifetime. Our education lets us stand on the shoulders of others who have thought these things through, who have learned these things, so that we can also come to see the truth of them. Culture and artwork. I'll take the example of artwork. Many pieces of art become part of our patrimony. Those perhaps are the clearest examples. Let's say the paintings of Georgia O'Keeffe or the movie The Godfather. These are goods that are shared in by very many people within our culture. They're things that many people have experienced as beautiful, as things that deepen them, that take their hearts more profoundly into the reality of being. Those are common goods. In some way, all artwork is a common good. You might say, well, it belongs to the artist in a particular way, and I would agree. I don't think a common good means it belongs to everyone in exactly the same way. But it does mean that it's something that many, many share in. Supply, transportation, we need ways of getting the things that we need and for ourselves to get to the places we need to be. Our roads, railroads, airplanes, those systems allow all of us within this community of the United States, the society of the United States, to benefit from things coming to us or us going to other places. Lastly, God is the greatest common good, that which is the end of our striving, he for whom we all are made. That's the greatest common good of any society. Lastly, this is kind of my theory that I've mentioned in class, but I think is important. I think that seeking the common good is exactly what allows the personalist norm to be kept. If you remember, the personalist norm is that a person is a good that we should always treat as an end and never as a means. How do we do that? It seems like we need people for so many things. Well, true, we do need other people, but I don't think we have to use them. You can look at the example I've written on this page of a business. I think that's a helpful example. But I'm going to take two others since that one's written out. One, opening the window. If I ask someone to open up a window for me, am I using them within the classroom? I ask a student to open the window, am I using them? I would say not necessarily. Yes, if I just want it for my individual good, I'm too hot and I don't care about anyone else. Yes, perhaps if I use violence, I'm going to give you an F if you don't open that window. I'm compelling them into this action like I would compel a hammer to do my bidding. But if I ask them, it seems to me what I could well be doing is invite them to share in helping with the common good of us being comfortable enough within the class to work effectively and to be happy. A common good. It could be my judgment as a teacher that it's too hot in this room. It's making many people uncomfortable. Therefore, Fred, could you please open the window? I take one role in defending the common good. He, if he chooses to, takes another by opening the window. We're collaborating in a common effort for a good that we share. That's not use, that's collaboration. Similarly, let's say I ask Fred to take me to the soccer game. I don't think I have to be using him. Why? Because I think the person themselves is the sort of thing that can be a common good. If Fred loves me in the sense of willing the good of the other as other, then my good in some real way becomes his. I love myself, Fred loves me, I can be that common good for any who love me. And therefore asking people to help me is asking them to share in a common good. And then presumably I would do the same for them because I ought love them as well. I'm intrigued by this. We'll continue talking about it. That's the common good. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye now.